Attention Austin guitarists, are you in need of setup or repair on your axe even during these quarantine times? Well, I have the guy for you. That's Jason Swedberg over at J. Scott Luthery. You can find him at J. Scott Luthery on Facebook. Gang, I've been taking my guitars to Jason for over 20 years, and not only does he do the best job, but he has the best prices and the fastest service in town. That's J. Scott Luthery on Facebook. Don't forget, whether it's electric, acoustic, or bass, Jason Swedberg is your guy. Check out J. Scott Luthery on Facebook. Let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here are your hosts.
Hello, I'm Johnny. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. I hope you guys have all had a good week. I hope you're hanging in there. I hope you're staying sane. I'm doing better than I have over the last couple weeks. If those of you that keep up with the show, I went to Houston on Tuesday to see my girlfriend Jenna and to have a responsible socially distanced hang with my 97-year-old grandmother and my Aunt Olga in the front yard. That was really great. It was great to see them. For those of you that are like, what? You went somewhere? Dude, I have decreased my movement to almost zero. I was only there for really one day. I got there late Tuesday afternoon, hung out with Jenna, then my girlfriend, and then I went to my grandma's and a total social distancing scene. Came home. When I stopped at the grocery stores or stopped at the gas stations, I stopped at Buc-ee's because I know that they have automatic doors and they have bathrooms with no doors. So you just walk in. You don't have to touch anything. So I did, I was a little freaked out. I mean, it's freaky. This whole thing is freaky. But I feel so much better seeing some people and interacting. Like I feel this... there's this tension I had inside, like this anxiety, this low-grade anxiety that would raise every once in a while, but it never goes away. It just stays at this weird low level, is gone right now. So thanks to Jenna, thanks to my grandmother Abita, and thank you, Olga, for hanging out and doing well. All right, gang, I want to tell you about a great event going on this Tuesday, May 12th. iACT, Interfaith Action of Central Texas, presents Courage to Hope, a virtual fundraiser and celebration of community to take place, as I said, this Tuesday, May 12th at 6:30 p.m., and it's streamed on Zoom. It's honoring Cookie Ruiz, Executive Director of Ballet Austin. They're going to have a lot of inspirational conversations with people on there, and they feature a very special set of music by the legendary Jimmie Dale Gilmore. You can find your tickets at interfaithtexas.org. Now, speaking of Jimmie Dale Gilmore, he's my guest today. All right. Yes, I'm very excited about this. Jimmie has been making music and putting out records for over 50 years now. Or maybe not putting out records for over 50 years, but definitely making music for over 50 years. And I met him when I moved back here in 1991. I lived at this recording studio called the Congress House, and one of the guys that worked out of there was playing with Jimmie. Was playing guitar with Jimmie at the time. And anyway, I met him there, and we became pals. And after that, became friends with his wife. I used to work at Whole Foods, and they used to come in all the time, and I would see them. I became friends with his kids. His son Colin Gilmore, he's been on the show 3 or 4 times, and his wife Janet. Just great people, fantastic people. And Jimmie is a legendary artist, man. He was a member of the Flatlanders, or is a member of the Flatlanders, along with Joe Ely and Butch Hancock. And he's part of that whole Lubbock tribe of people, that group of people that are like these weird sort of like mystical cowboy intellectual poets. That's what I think of them all as. There's like Terry Allen, Joe Ely, Butch Hancock, Jimmie Dale Gilmore. There's people like Lloyd Maines. There's all kinds of people from this one sort of generation of folks that grew up in Lubbock that went on to just be great artists and amazing, soulful people. Anyway, Jimmie Dale Gilmore is a part of that. You might know him. If you don't know his music, you might know him as Smokey in the movie The Big Lebowski in the bowling scene. You know Smokey, baby. Yeah, of course you do. Lately, he's been making music with the great Dave Alvin, and they put out a record called Downey Lubbock, which is absolutely fantastic. You can go to JimmieDaleGilmore.com for all of your Jimmie Dale Gilmore needs. I'm very excited to have this conversation with this dude, as I've known him for a long time and I haven't seen him in a long time. But it was great to see his face and talk to him. It was great to see his wife Janet pops in and says hey and lays some more information on us about iACT, the Interfaith Action of Central Texas. Don't forget, man, check out Courage of Hope. Go to interfaithtexas.org. This is a very special event taking place this Tuesday, May 12th, streamed on Zoom, takes place at 6:30 p.m. Go to interfaithtexas.org for all of your Interfaith Texas needs, your iACT needs, right? All right, well, please, without any further yapping on my part, let's talk to the great Jimmie Dale Gilmore. Let's get down.
Well, goodbye, baby. Gotta leave you now. It don't make no difference. You didn't love me anyhow. Oh, bye. Goodbye,
Audio,
baby.
the video.
No, we're
Right.
just recording the audio.
Okay.
I'm doing well. How are you doing, man?
Very well. Very well.
It's been a long time.
It's very, yeah. Everything's been a long time. It's been a long time since I've seen you. It's been a long time that we've been sequestered here.
Yeah, it has.
Another universe.
What has this been like for you? What have you been up to?
Well, I like it, actually. Strangely enough, it's just because I function well with lots of time on my hands to putter and do, be, I don't have a real huge drive towards productivity or anything, but I have I've been writing a lot. I've been enjoying some computer music programs and stuff that I'm messing with. And then also, we've been doing a lot of, because our group, our Buddhist group,
right,
has done a whole lot of.
Is that iACT?
Well, iACT is it's the interfaith organization and we're part. Janet is on the board of it. Janet she's actually the teacher in our group, but our Buddhist group it's not. It's a teeny little member of iACT.
Okay.
iACT includes all different,
right.
Denominations, faiths. Even us being studying Tibetan Buddhism. It's a little different from the others in that it's we're not it's not a theological. It's not a theistic thing, but we're definitely fellow travelers with the more traditional religious,
of course, people
that are part of the whole organization.
What have you guys been doing with the Buddhist group during this quarantine?
Well, one thing is we've been using Zoom for our weekly meetings that we normally have together.
Right.
And then we also have been, for a few weeks now, Janet started hosting a morning meditation that a bunch of us kind of join in on. It's very unusual for me because I'm not normally an early riser, and for some reason it's been easier for me lately.
Yeah. I wonder why that is.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's these conditions, or that have something to do with it, or my age.
Yeah, yeah.
Things are changing.
Yeah. Okay. So with this event, you guys are having this Courage to Hope event, which is a virtual fundraiser and celebration of community, and it takes place on May 12th, and it'll be streamed on Zoom on May 12th at 6:30 p.m. And it's honoring Cookie Ruiz, the executive director of Ballet Austin. There'll be a lot of inspirational conversations between people, I guess, and then you'll be performing.
Yeah. That's right. We this is our because there's an annual gala that's for fundraising and kind of spreading the word of what this group is about. And but normally it's a big event, like usually I think over at the Bullock Center in Austin.
Right.
And so this year, because we can't do that, both for this group in particular couldn't do that. We need to set a good example, but it's for to aid the group in doing it. It's various projects.
Right. There's like a housing project. You help the elderly. Yeah. For both low income people that need help with housing repairs and stuff like that, and elderly people, and then there's a lot of that's kind of one branch of it. Then there's a lot of outreach and aid for like, for example, refugees and asylum seekers. Right. And it's really a really beautiful organization. It's really fun because I completely believe in the whole mission that this organization. Yeah. And then also, as it happens, we've made a lot of friends through this that we probably wouldn't have gotten to know otherwise, because there are Muslims, Jews, Baptists, Buddhists. We're the token Buddhists, I think. It's interesting because it seems like it's taken a long time for all of the faiths to kind of come together and realize that. I mean, that's something that's fairly new over the last 50 years, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I think so. It's something that, and it's something, the Dalai Lama is the of course the main figurehead in our tradition, but this has been one of his main pet projects besides just his advocacy for Tibet and Tibetan culture. Right. The dialogue and communication, and connection between, and not just faith groups, but he deeply holds that ideal. But also, he's been a very huge advocate for science and for bringing science into the more traditional
faith.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, because there's still some that are very separate, and we're seeing that now almost more than ever.
Yeah, it's been brought to the surface.
Yeah, there's some people that do not. Even my own dad. My own dad.
I think all of us have family members, that are extreme both ways.
Yeah.
And it's a strange time for that reason. It's funny because just a couple of days ago I read a thing. It's one of these deals where it was so obvious, but somehow I hadn't personally put it together yet.
Yeah.
It was an article about that. For example, I don't really want to get all into politics or anything, but this is a long term. It's just a thought, kind of a history of thought in America or just in the modern world. But this guy brought up the fact that, like Donald Trump didn't start this whole thing of denigrating science,
right,
and bringing it down. It's been a decades long thing.
Sure.
And to the total detriment of the whole, and this, to me, this coronavirus thing is proving what a incredibly detrimental thing that has been.
Yeah.
But what this guy pointed out, that, like I said, it was so obvious. It's like I already knew this, but I hadn't put it together in this way. But the whole disparaging of science, science was looked up to when I was younger.
Yeah.
By by the general populace, and including people of faith of all kinds, and it was, but the scientists were they became the enemy of vested interests that do a lot of pollution.
Right.
And that's the underlying basis of the thing. And for some reason, those people then were able to get, I think they kind of hijacked the sort of
religious.
Yeah. Exactly. The religious tendency to like once again, they can get in. That's a complicated subject actually, but
Sure, but there can
living in right now.
Right. There can be a sort of mindset where people, instead of accepting religious teachings and science, they see it very black and white. There's even people that only believe in science and have no faith as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's a very fine line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And open-mindedness should go both directions.
Yeah. How did you find Buddhism?
Well, I'd been interested. I read a lot when I was a kid, and I read, for one thing, strangely enough, a lot of what had to do with it was reading science fiction when I was young.
Yeah.
And I just was interested in so many books and things and in ideas, and people who, including in my musical circle, the kind of people that were broadly interested in all kinds of things, I guess in life in general, were.
Yeah.
And I studied philosophy some in college. I never got a degree or anything, but I did study philosophy, and that actually kind of step by step, the combination of stuff going on. There's the doggy. The combination of studying Western philosophy and then starting to find these different connections, I became really interested in Oriental philosophy.
Yeah,
especially from several English writers. Aldous Huxley and Somerset Maugham, in particular, had a big influence on me, and I became really deeply interested, a little step at a time in Vedanta philosophy, ancient Indian.
Okay.
And then later on, I discovered that, for me personally, that the Buddhist offspring of the Vedas and of Indian philosophy. Well, Buddha was Indian. It is Indian. Buddhism has been so much a part of the Indian heritage, but I slowly discovered that Buddhism actually, in all kinds of ways, made more sense to me than the really traditional Hindu Vedic
right
sort of approach. And I found them even now. I find it the connection between the ancient Oriental philosophies and all the other religions. If such a broad term. I mean, it's the whole word is so fraught with disagreement and controversy and everything, but I find that there's something a unity, a coherence in Buddhism that would naturally lead to this thing of wanting to bring different faiths together.
Yeah.
And once again, also the open-mindedness of science.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a progression. I mean, I've been reading and studying this stuff for a very, very long time now. It kind of blows my mind to think about the fact it's been many, many years.
Yeah.
But each little piece of it, was just something, you read something and it leads you to something else and it leads you to something else.
Yeah. And you ended up living in an ashram, right?
Well, it says that in Wikipedia. I didn't actually literally live in an ashram. I lived amongst a community of people that were followers of a guru.
Okay.
In Denver. There were ashrams. I didn't actually live in one of them, but I was part of the community that our whole dedication was to the activities of that community. Like 7 days a week, we had job. We worked and everything, but we also had meetings and discourses, satsang we called it.
Yeah,
and lots of visiting people from India and also then later on from all over the world that were involved in it, and we but I didn't. I did live for a short while in what was called an applicant ashram. It was a beginning ashram in New Orleans.
Oh, really?
When I first got involved with the whole thing. So I was, but I never was actually a full-fledged, monastic member of the community.
Like Leonard Cohen was that, wasn't he? Didn't he do that from time to time?
He studied Zen Buddhism.
Okay.
Which of course is very closely related with Tibetan Buddhism. Zen is more the Japanese derivation of Buddhism, but he studied, and actually he went more deeply into it in that sense than I ever did, in the sense of actually living in a monastery and serving a teacher, real directly.
Yeah. There was something, man, I wanted to talk to you about this. When I met you was the early 90s, and you had just put out After a While. And you were on this sort of like one of those guys that was given their musical chance, not in their early 20s or late teens, like a Sexton brother or something, or like maybe you guys had initially started out with the Flatlanders. And it wasn't really until I started just like kind of going through your life over the last few days that I understood sort of like why people. I thought you were amazing when I moved here, but there was like this, like you were almost like a new artist at that time, and you were, in a way, like that was like your third record or something, right? Solo record.
Let's see. Yeah, that was after a while came after, the original Flatlanders was way before that.
Way before that, yeah.
And then I did 2 records on High Tone.
Right.
That were under my name rather than the Flatlanders.
But those didn't start coming out until the late 80s, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So there was like this 16-year sort of like you were living in Denver and doing stuff like that, but musically, what was happening with you during that time?
Well, I played a lot of music with friends, for one thing, I had lived in Austin in the late 60s, and then gone back to Lubbock, and then Lubbock was where the Flatlanders happened. My music career in Austin had actually started before the Flatlanders.
Okay.
And I lived most of the 70s in Denver.
Okay.
And so the music we played quite a bit, but it was like just for fun around the house, or for a little fundraising things.
Right.
There was a lot of great musicians in Denver. There was the Denver Folklore Center. I got to be really good friends with a bunch of those people. And matter of fact, people that were involved with my group, with our group, which was called the Divine Light Mission, and which I always loved the irony of that, of a mission coming to the United States.
Yeah.
But for example, Nick Forster was who I don't know if you know program called E-Town that comes out of Boulder.
No.
Oh, you should look it up. It's I haven't talked to him in a few weeks, so I don't know what's happening now. But Nick is a really great musician and an organizer, and he had this radio show in E-Town for ecology, going for many years now, and it's a little like a Prairie Home Companion. It's sort of along those lines. It's a radio show it's on a number of PBS stations around the country. But Nick and I were friends and played music together back then. He later on became he was in Hot Rise, so he was he sort of introduced the electric bass into the bluegrass world.
Oh wow, okay.
And so there was music. I was doing a lot of music, but I just wasn't pursuing the career in the way
right
I had earlier on. And meantime, during that time, so what really happened was that basically Butch Hancock and then particularly Joe Ely sort of kept my career alive in Texas
by playing your tunes.
Yeah, by recording my music.
Yeah.
And sort of, keeping my name sort of known in the musicians world.
Yeah.
And so when I moved back to Austin, which was in 1980, I just, first of all moved in with Butch, and then in Butch, we started performing a whole lot around. I had performed in Austin all through those years on visits.
Okay.
But by that time, Butch was actually living in Austin, and not long after that, Joe moved to Austin too.
Yeah.
And we didn't reunite as the Flatlanders at that time, but we reunited as friends, like hanging out together.
Yeah, and there's a tremendous amount of stuff on YouTube of like you guys guesting with each other throughout those times. It looks like sort of like the mid to late 80s and 90s on different TV shows and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and different shows.
Joe was particularly active and well known, and he had Butch and I do a lot of stuff. He had us guest a lot with him, and then just there were various odd things that came along. Butch produced a TV show for a long time.
Oh yeah,
Texas. What was it? It wasn't the Texas Connection. I think that's what Willie Nelson did, but for some reason,
I think there's some footage of that stuff from you. Was that in the late 80s?
Yes.
Okay. And you might have been on there like with Joe Ely's band?
Probably, or a band of my own, because I had different, a lot of different people playing with me.
I can tell what era it is by the length of your hair in those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when you came back and you started sort of pursuing your career again, and you picked up, I noticed that there was one thing about you guys that I really admire, and I think is also odd, but there's this sort of like there's like videos of you going on the Tonight Show with Natalie Merchant. There's, Joe Ely going on the David Letterman show. There's all of these sort of like, you pop into mainstream culture every once in a while, but otherwise you guys have hovered on the outside, just basically marching to the beat of your own drummer. And it's not just you and Butch and Joe, it's Terry and everyone else from there. Lloyd, like everyone from your group of friends is easily like, as far as I'm concerned, in sort of like the American tapestry of cool people, like very high up in the like cool group of people. I mean, that is just, were you guys like, were you trying to be in the mainstream in any way, or just people came around to you guys? Because the same thing happened with the Flatlanders. Like when you guys made your first record, it seems like you weren't, Like you were a curiosity to people in Nashville, but you didn't fit the system when it all came down to it.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of a fluke. The whole thing, we had a little bit. Oh, well, Joe, one time a few years ago, we were being interviewed at one of the when we had in one of the reunion albums that the Flatlanders did.
Yeah,
we were being interviewed for some press thing, and somebody asked a question. They were asking a question that it was implying that we were. The question had to do with what was our plan? What were we trying to accomplish? Or something?
Right.
And at one point, Joe interrupted the questioner and said, "You have to understand something about." He said, "Between Butch and Jimmie and me," I'm quoting Joe.
Yeah.
He said, "Between Butch and Jimmie and me back in that time," he said, "there wasn't a thimble full of ambition." And the thing was, we were driven by just a real intense love of the music that we loved, and of the group of friends, both the musicians and the non-musicians that were part of our whole entourage. That was the driving force in all of it. We loved music, and then there happened to be several people. I mean, I've known Terry Allen since I was young, since I was in high school. Since he's a little bit older than me, and Butch and I are around the same age. We're a little bit older than Joe, but I've been real close friends with people. Butch, for instance, from before he ever played an instrument.
Yeah.
Yes. So I had the fluke good fortune of some real close friends that turned out to be world-class musicians. Yeah. We didn't know that then, we were just doing what we liked. We didn't.
What an amazing
that way.
Yeah. How often do all of you get together without a performance involved?
Well, pretty often, except that we live. Joe lives south of Austin. I live west of Austin. Okay. So we're far enough apart that it's we have to make plans to try.
Right.
I mean, we're like 45 minutes drive away from each other. And Butch lives out in Terlingua.
Oh, okay.
And so, but anytime we're kind of in the same neighborhood together, we usually get together. We have meals together. We go to movies, and although of course lately we haven't, but.
Right.
But Jan and I also we got a little place down in Terlingua.
Oh, now, nice.
Our kind of vacation place. But now that's been disrupted, of course.
Right.
But Butch lives out there. And Butch and I do a lot more things together. We do occasional things with Joe.
Right.
And Butch and I do things more often, just the two of us. And although, of course, in the last couple of years, I didn't do much because I was touring with Dave Alvin.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah, you guys, that record that you did, Downey to Lubbock, is gorgeous, man. That's a great album.
Yeah, I really love it myself. It's worn really, really well.
Yeah.
And now it's like getting to be, it's like a couple of years old. Well, a year old, year and a half.
Yeah, I guess so. Are you, did you have plans to be touring this spring and summer?
Oh yeah, there were things. We wouldn't have been touring as heavily as we did last year.
Right.
We were on the road constantly, but there were more plans, but they were scattered. There were festivals, and and then those got canceled pretty quickly.
Okay. Was there any new album, or is there any new music in the works for you right now, or anything?
Dave has been saying since we were on the road last year that we got to do another one. We got to do another one, but circumstances have just intervened in such a way that we haven't really had the ability to get together.
Yeah.
What it takes to get that to happen.
Yeah.
But we want to. So
yeah.
That's the first step.
Yeah. The first hurdle. You've been listening to music for a long time. And music like that first, I read that Flatlanders, that first record only came out on 8-track. That's gone. Then cassettes, then CDs, then iTunes and stuff, and now streaming. Do you stream music? Like, do you have a Spotify account?
Yeah, I do, but I don't. I don't listen to nearly as much music as I did when I was younger. I still listen to music, but I don't get all. I'm more likely to spend time messing with my own music.
Okay.
Than listening to music, but I still really love being turned on to some new thing that I like. You know.
Yeah.
That's really
There was a thing that I was going through your discography, and then it triggered a memory of this happening, and I remembered thinking, like, wow, that is one of the coolest things I've ever heard. You did this, like a 7-inch or something with Mudhoney?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How did that come about?
Well, we had mutual friends in the music business and in the Seattle area.
Oh, cool.
And it was, so it was that was one of those things that kind of like but they and I were both like, we're up for anything. We'll try something. We'll try this. And I really liked those guys a whole lot. They were really fun to work with. And it was, of course, to me, it was a kind of a lark. I didn't even really realize how popular they were.
Right.
At the time. And it was amazing. And so I think a number of people from both directions, you know, I think some of my fans got turned on to them.
Sure.
They probably wouldn't have heard of them otherwise. But I think maybe even more so that I got turned on to a new group of fans that,
yeah,
you know, that probably opened doors that wouldn't have opened otherwise.
Right. I thought it was cool, and it made sense to me on the level that you guys were both, you know, that you were kind of the same kind of artist with integrity and marching to the own beat of your drum, and even though your music was worlds apart, your spirits were the same. Yeah,
and that's the way it felt.
Yeah.
With it.
It's funny, it's kind of like Joe with The Clash. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Although it's funny because once I listened to this documentary about The Clash, or I listened to this. There was one on Spotify that they did, like an audio documentary podcast thing, and I was looking at these pictures of The Clash, and it's like you can see, especially Joe Strummer, he immediately became Joe Ely, like look-wise.
Yes.
He like literally like started slicking back his hair and like the whole thing, like bolo ties and the jackets and the boots. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, you know, there's a whole bunch of people that I think. Well, for example, Bruce Springsteen, you know, he's a very intense Joe Ely fan.
Yeah,
and Flatlanders fan too. But Bruce really loves Joe, and I think that there's been a crossover from kind of behind the scenes.
Oh yeah,
number of major artists.
Yeah. I saw the Flatlanders. I was trying to think of when it was, and I just can't remember. But it was it was outside. It's a place that's now Cheer Up Charlie's. It used to be like Club de Ville, and it was some other different things. But it was a South by Southwest, and you guys played out there by that rock wall.
Yes, I remember that.
And it might have been like a Texas Music Magazine party. I think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Because I remember Richard Scantz asked me if I had ever seen you guys, and I was like, no, I've never seen this. This is like, it was unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had been a long time since we had performed together, I think.
Yeah, then there was a lot of just I had never experienced the energy of you three together, which I thought was I was like, oh, this is what everybody's always talking about, you know?
Yeah.
This is the thing that made more a legend than a band, you know? Yeah.
And it's our feeling for each other and everything is still there. It's still each of us has been a devoted fan of the other two.
Now that is definite. That's definitely
the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. You can tell by the way that you guys cover each other's songs, like the reverence that you... Because at some point, like when I first started hearing all of those songs, I didn't know who wrote them. I thought whoever was singing it wrote it, but then I'd hear another guy singing that same song, and I'd be like, wait a minute, which guy wrote this song? Because everybody sounds like they wrote it, you know?
Yeah.
They sang it with that authority. When you're recording now at home, you're getting into some recording programs on the computer?
Yeah, but I'm really... I actually started doing this a very long time ago, and I got Logic for the app. Actually, before it was Logic, but it was a thing called eMagic.
Yeah.
That a German company that Apple bought and turned into Logic and GarageBand. And I kind of learned that in some off times when we weren't on the road. I mean, it's way back there, back in the 90s, you know, and I never did get really great at it, but I kind of learned it. And then for years I was away from it just because of, you know, just touring and this and that and the other. And going back to it all had changed so much that there's a learning curve that's that I'm in the middle of right now.
Right.
I'm trying to relearn it's all improved, you know, but it's different.
Yeah.
I'm having not only to learn, but to relearn.
Yeah. I would be interested in hearing have you ever produced any artists?
No, not really.
No?
I've been credited as co-producer on several of my records, but
right.
for the most part, I played, you know, I was somewhat co-producer, but you know, like with Dave, for example,
yeah,
Dave was really the producer of Down to Lubbock.
You worked with a lot of really great producers. I mean, you worked with like all the guys in your genre of music, in the Americana genre of music, like, you know, at least 5 of the top 10. You know, everyone from Bruton, Buddy Miller, Joe Ely, T-Bone Burnett.
Yeah.
How were those? Did you have good experiences? Do you still stay in touch with all those guys? And
yeah, to a degree.
Yeah.
It's hard for musicians. And, you know, Emery Gordy was
right.
Gordy was the Spinning Around the Sun, which in ways I think that remains my favorite of my records. Although I can't make a blanket statement like that, because all of my records, there are things on them that have totally stood up for me.
Yeah.
Stood the test of time. But musicians in general don't stay in touch with each other because we're always touring.
It's hard, yeah.
And it has come to be, you know, there's the big, huge festival, which won't be happening this year. I think, I don't know that for sure, but the Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival out in San Francisco, every year we all, it's become like a giant family reunion for the musicians.
Yeah.
And so I see most of them. I always see Buddy out there. I see T-Bone out there. You know, we all still have a connection and friendship.
Yeah.
But we don't see each other all that much.
Yeah. Well, I know that feeling. There's that. You almost got to go on tour together to get to hang out all the time.
Yeah. Right. And then it's crossing, just accidentally crossing in.
Yeah, of course. Those are always magical times, you know, seeing someone. How often do you get, I have to ask you this because I think about it a lot since I saw the Big Lebowski. How often do people stop and say, "Hey, Smokey," or something like that?
Oh yeah, that's just as year after year that movie gets more popular. It's very strange. It's a weird anomaly of the universe to me.
Yeah. How did you end up in that movie?
Have this little Well, Joel and Ethan they used to come to lots of my shows, and were and I think this is true. I'm not certain about this, but I think maybe that, they made their first movie here in Austin, which is called Blood Simple.
Oh, right.
And which is a great movie, incredibly good, low budget movie.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that Frances McDormand, I think she might have brought them to see me to begin with, but then for years, they used to come to my shows, and of course I loved everything they ever did. My Raising Arizona is still one of the best works of art in the world.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And everything they've done, I've loved.
Yeah.
And so we had talked a little at some point about maybe my doing some music for their movies, which I always really wanted to do. But when they finally contacted my manager, in the business, that said they actually wanted me to play a part in a movie, and I was shocked by that. And of course, I said yes.
Yeah, of course.
But it was with total misgivings, like, I don't know if I can even do this.
Yeah, it's interesting. You like fell into like one of the most classic scenes of a movie ever.
Yeah.
Like that bowling alley scene is like, I mean, that is a classic scene. Just the whole torturo and everything of the whole deal.
Everything about it was just amazing from my point of view.
Yeah.
And Jeff Bridges and John Goodman are just the best.
Yeah.
at what they do.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing fluke of good luck for me to be part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great, yeah. I remember when I saw that movie and you came on screen, I was like, yes, this is awesome. Have you done a lot of co-writing in your career? Like with people, do people come to you and not just want to cover your songs, but want you to finish a song with them, or they have an idea for a song? Or
I wouldn't say a lot, but I have done some. And I have for one thing, the Flatlanders, that was in our latter day incarnation. That was part of the deal, was that we learned that we could write together.
Yeah.
And we hadn't done that when we were younger. So, that's wonderful. And then there are a number of people I've co-written maybe one or two things with, but I haven't done it routinely.
Right.
Oddly, I teach a songwriting class once a year in upstate New York at the Omega Foundation.
Oh, that's good.
The Omega Institute
Uh-huh.
or Holistic Studies.
Oh, nice.
And I've done that for a very long time, for 24, 25 years.
Wow.
Something. And the way the class operates is we use collaboration as a springboard for examination of the process of songwriting. And it's been a very major part, that the whole idea of collaboration has been a big part of my career. Even though this is the backstage part, this is the hidden part of of the career, but it's I think at one point I sort of had to overcome a kind of a resistance. At one point, somebody pointed out to me the history of music, that you could just start going down the list, Lieber and Stoller, Gilbert and Sullivan,
right,
Lennon McCartney, the list of great music that came from collaboration stacks up to the list that comes from individual.
Yeah. Yeah. Collaboration.
I didn't believe it was legitimate.
Yeah. It's
sort of unconsciously.
It takes it's interesting when you find someone that you gel with. I've had those relationships throughout my career with someone that I like kind of becomes my songwriting spouse for a while. You know what I mean? You get some good stuff, and then sometimes the well runs dry, or your relationship kind of goes astray a little bit. You can't really get the magic back. So, but I have always enjoyed those. Do you, are you gonna, like, what's your plan, sort of like career wise, as this thing lets up?
I really have just sort of a very nebulous pipe dream about getting, well, like, Dave Alvin said he wants to do another record, but I'd like to do another one of my own stuff.
Yeah.
But once again, I never have been never have been very extremely proactive and stuff to happen. So.
Well,
everybody has a different approach. You know what I mean? To the whole
record.
Oh yeah, and Janet just said, and the Flatlander record.
Oh, well, that's good. There's a flat. It's so the.
About it.
There's a Flatlanders record coming.
No, they have just been talking about.
No,
okay.
Matter of fact, we've made it's actually, I guess, been 2 years. It's kind of around the time that Dave and I started going out. We actually had gotten together at one time because with the Flatlanders, the logistics is really complex, and we had actually gotten together and had a meeting, had a dinner together, and we said, okay, it's time to start doing it again.
Yeah.
Well, always before that's taken at least a couple of years. and with the now with the coronavirus thing thrown in, there's no telling what kind of wrinkle that throws into it, because everybody is so uncertain about
the future. Yeah, it's pretty freaky. Do you? I mean, in your this is so far the freakiest thing in my lifetime that I've sort of lived through. I think, outside of an isolated earthquake in Mexico when I was a little kid, but this is like, it's like the biggest thing. Is this sort of the biggest thing in your life? That's.
I think so. I mean, because this is disrupted so much across the board.
Yeah.
Like not just us, not just me personally, but everybody I know, and then and everybody else.
Right,
everybody
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, the whole world is kind of
affecting everybody.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt about it. And I remember one article in the New York Times where the guy was saying, really, he said, this is the biggest thing since the Depression.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, I don't think it's analogous to the wars, the world wars, that are
right.
But in certain respects, it's as disruptive.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's good. It's also, I mean, one thing that I have been happy to see is that even though everybody is in this, it's not like when there's a hurricane where one spot is affected and everyone can come help. This is like everyone across the board is affected, but it seems like there's a lot of people stepping up and being able to, with whatever they have, give back to those that aren't able to make it through this time as easily as others. Yeah, which is like what you guys are able to do with this event that you're doing on the 12th.
There seem to be signs of this, having this effect all around of helping people, strangely enough, come together.
Yeah,
as after by being pushed apart.
Yeah, it's almost like people are connecting with their humanity again.
Yeah. There seems to be a lot of that.
Yeah,
and also for me personally, I feel like it's this is exposing the flaw of having politicians and businessmen run things instead of scientists and teachers. And
yeah,
philosophers.
Yeah. Yeah.
The flaw is serious, and this has exposed it. The flaw is deep, and I hope that one of the outcomes will be that it'll wake everybody up to that.
Yeah. A more awakened society.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would benefit from that. Well, man, this has been great talking to you and seeing your face again and getting to see Janet briefly. I've always
heard you over here and lean in and say hi, but
I've always thought the world of you guys.
I was listening in, but it was a great interview.
Oh, thank you. It's great to see you.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed hearing the answers and the questions.
Me too. It's great to see you guys, and you guys have always been lovely people in my life. I'm sorry I don't see you enough, but I love your children. I do get to see them from time to time, which is great. Yeah.
They're more social than we are.
Yeah, I understand. But you guys, congratulations on being able to be a part of this Courage of Hope event, which is a virtual fundraiser in celebration of community taking place May 12th at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom. I'll put links to all the stuff in the body of the text of this podcast so that people can just click on there and be a part of it.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah. Have you done any live streaming yet?
Only a little bit. I've done a couple of individual songs, and I've done an interview with Colin, my son.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen, he's got a little weekly program that he's doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And he does. What night is on?
Well, he does the interview on Tuesday at 2.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
great, yeah.
And then I can't remember who today is. Maybe Bonnie Whitmore, maybe?
Yeah. So Colin's just, interviewing his friends and connections.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And he's had the Bonnie Whitmore on. Of course, she plays with him a lot. And the Mastersons.
Yeah.
Amy Harris and Mary Gaucher.
That's awesome. I love all those people. And Colin's such a great artist himself and such a great person. Fantastic person.
He and Tammy have been doing a really great job with that thing. And I haven't done any concerted thing with that, but I kind of expect to.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you say it, but I have to recommend Christine Albert and Chris Gage.
Oh, yeah. They're still keeping the Mondays going on.
Yes, and they did one last night that was just spectacularly great. I really would recommend anybody to look in on that.
Oh, man, I should have watched it. Oh, yeah, people check them out on... I guess it's on either one of their Facebook pages.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
I saw him on some TV show with you, just killing it on piano on one song, and then the next song, he was just tearing it up on guitar.
Yeah.
It was I think it was The Tonight Show or something like that.
Yeah, Chris is an amazing musician.
Yeah.
And Christine.
And Christine's awesome. Just a lovely person. They're great people too. All of I'm doing things like this podcast and stuff reminds me how lucky I am to be a part of this musical family of people. Yeah. Always.
Good fortune.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been great catching up, and thanks for your time. I'll be posting this in the next couple of days, and I'll send you guys a link and everything to it.
Yeah, do that, please.
But thanks again for doing the show, and love you guys. Take care.
You too.
All right, my man. Thanks, Jimmie.
Thanks, Johnny.
Goodbye, baby.
All right. Jimmie Dale Gilmore. What a great conversation. Don't forget, gang, Interfaith Action of Central Texas presents Courage to Hope, a virtual fundraiser in celebration of community to take place May 12th, 6:30 p.m., streamed on Zoom, honoring Cookie Ruiz, Executive Director of the Ballet Austin. And a lot of inspiring conversations and, of course, a performance with our guest today, the amazing Jimmie Dale Gilmore. I will put a link to that event in the text of this podcast, so just click on that, go get yourself some tickets, and watch this, be a part of this Courage to Hope fundraiser. Do it up, man. Let's help some people out. They're doing great stuff out there. It was great catching up with Jimmie. Great getting to see Janet. Those guys have always been so nice to me, so kind, and I've always had the tremendous amount of affection for them. And I'm so glad I got to catch up with them. So glad Jimmie was finally on the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please share it. Share it on social media. Use the hashtag HowDidIGetHerePod, and I'll know about it. Please share it. This was a great conversation. It's cool to hear a guy like Jimmie. I didn't follow the whole line of stuff because his story's been told a lot. The Flatlander story's been told a lot. What I wanted to get to is like, what's Jimmie up to now? What's he doing? Tell me about this Buddhism thing. And so anyway, I think we got to do a lot of different stuff. Got to talk about a lot of great stuff. Smokey from the Big Lebowski. All right, man. Here's some more music from Jimmie Dale Gilmore, his latest record with Dave Alvin. Downey to Lubbock. Check that out. Find him at JimmieDaleGilmore.com. Have a great weekend, gang, whatever it is you're doing. Enjoy whatever it is you can enjoy, you know? That's kind of where I'm at right now. Have a great weekend. Let's get down.
I'll take you someplace you ought to be. Oh, bye. Goodbye, baby. Baby, goodbye. I gotta leave you, baby. I can't get you to understand.